I think we'll get started now. I am Jeff Wiese, Chief Marketing Officer of Actian, and I want to welcome you to a joint webinar brought to you by Actian and Google Cloud. We're going to be talking about the future of cloud data warehousing this morning, and you're going to just love this session. It's going to be interactive. We're going to do demonstrations. We're going to answer hard-hitting questions to really get at where this industry is today and where it's trending, with two of the thought leaders in the industry. If we can move to the agenda, we'll go over today what we're looking at. But first, I'd like to introduce the speakers, and we'll let them introduce themselves. We have Emma and Manvinder. They're situated different parts of the United States. Would you guys like to introduce yourself, please? Starting with
Sure,
you.
thanks, Jeff. So my name is Emma McGrattan. I'm Senior Vice President of Engineering here at Actian, which means that I get to lead a team of really smart people doing some really cool things. As part of today's presentation, I plan to demonstrate some of the cool stuff that we've managed to deliver on Google Cloud, as well as talking about how excited we are to be working on this platform. Manvinder?
Awesome. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Manvinder Singh. I'm responsible for the partnerships with infrastructure and analytics companies at Google Cloud. Looking forward to sharing some perspectives with all of you. I am based in the San Francisco Bay Area on the West Coast.
Thank you very much, guys. Next slide, and we'll take a look at the agenda. So today we're going to start with Manvinder, and we're going to talk about Google Cloud, which is just developing all kinds of momentum just this past year. And we're going to hear about where they're at, where they're going. Then we'll talk about really the other part of a strategic partnership that was just launched last month around Actian's Avalanche Cloud Data Warehouse technology and offering. And Emma will take us through that. And then we'll come back for some discussion. I do want to emphasize, we definitely want to take some live Q&A. There's a Q&A menu option for you. Feel free to put in questions throughout the session. We'll queue them up, and then given time that we have left at the end, we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. With that, let me turn it over to Emma, Manvinder rather, who will take us through the very first section on Google Cloud. Over to you, Manvinder.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. So, before we talk about the future of data warehousing, we thought it might be interesting to look at the driving force that is causing this evolution. And we believe that truly is the data-powered innovation that almost every industry is going through. Next slide. Every industry is going digital, and I realize this may sound like a cliche, but like most cliches, it is true. Just think about it. Cars are now software-driven. I drive an electric car, and over the weekend, it received an update just like my phone or laptop would. Look at pharmaceuticals, right, and drug discovery. This industry now relies on big data and AI almost as much as it does on chemistry. And this is happening across industries. Like, you look at retail, for example, and even if you look at brick and mortar retail stores, shoppers now expect to get a view of inventory inside the store on their phone while they're driving to the store. So a lot of these companies are effectively embracing this software-driven digital transformation. And some analysts believe that by 2024, over 50% of all IT spending will go towards digital transformation and innovation. And also by 2025, 90% of new enterprise apps will embed AI in them. Just think of the change this will bring to the industry. If you look at the new business models this would create, if you look at the new customized customer experiences it will create, and also not to forget the optimization in operations it will lead to that will help drive down costs. So essentially, there's this big wave of digital transformation that is data powered, which we are seeing, and which is why at Google Cloud, next slide please. At Google Cloud, our mission is to accelerate every organization's ability to digitally transform and reimagine their business through data-powered innovation. And we do this through three sets of offerings. The first is our digital infrastructure as a service. And this is the compute, the storage, the networking, the high performance, high scale infrastructure that powers our public cloud. And that's the platform essentially that Actian Avalanche runs out on GCP. And then the second is our digital transformation platform. These are the analytics services or the AI services or the application development services that many of our customers use as they go along their digital transformation journey. And lastly, we also have some industry-specific solutions that are very targeted at solving specific problems. As an example, we recently launched Contact Center AI, which is our solution to bring AI inside a contact center experience and help drive change and improve customer experience and improve operations. So I want to focus on our infrastructure as a service because, as I mentioned, this is essentially the platform which is powering Actian on GCP. And as I mentioned, this is our compute services. This is our storage services. This is the networking and the security and the management that comes along with it. And one of the unique things, or one of the ways in which Google does things uniquely, is by leveraging the power of Anthos, we are able to enable cloud computing in whatever environment you're looking for. So, for example, if on the edge cloud, with the help of our telco partners, we can enable computing. It could be multi-cloud, so in a different public cloud, we offer some of these services. It could be hybrid cloud, which is in our customers' premises or customers' data centers. And of course, there's public cloud, which is GCP's data centers, which, if you go to the next slide, we have 24 different regions now globally. And when we're launching new ones as our customers ask for availability of our services. And these 24 regions are connected by Google's network backbone, which is the largest private network in the world. And it's the same network that powers many of Google's consumer services that many of you might be familiar with, like YouTube, for example. Some analysts estimate that at peak times, up to 25% of all global traffic goes through Google's backbone network. It's the same network, this powerful network, that we make available to our customers to power their internal and external experiences. And I'm sure Emma will talk about it in a bit, but this is the same network that powers Actian to deliver these experiences to customers. So going to the next slide. So what makes Google Cloud different? That could be a pretty long topic, and since it's not the focus of today's session, if you're interested, I would encourage you to look at some of the Google Cloud Next on-air videos on YouTube. But I want to just highlight some of these in a brief way. So first of all, it's the best-in-class security. Google has built its cloud bottoms up and an end-to-end stack purpose-built for cloud computing, which allows us control of the full stack and make it secure for our customers. Second is the hybrid and multi-cloud. We believe in enabling choice, and whatever might be the way that customers prefer to access these services, whether it's on GCP, in another cloud, or in hybrid environments, we strive to make that possible. We also strive to make our cloud as easy to use as possible and try to automate tasks such as configuration settings and just try to deliver experience where customers can focus on building and developing in the cloud. And AI and ML is part of Google's DNA, and that is something that we embed in our cloud computing services almost everywhere. And also, as I mentioned, we would try to bring the best of Google, the infrastructure, the services, the technology that powers Google services to our customers through GCP. We have, I think, over 7 services that have over 1 billion users. These are things like Gmail, YouTube, Google Drive, that the technology that powers these services is the same that is available to our customers through Google Cloud Platform. Now, coming back to the topic of data-powered innovation, if you can go to the next slide, please. Our goal is to help customers through their journey, and different customers have different paths they prefer for that. So some customers may prefer to build new applications in the cloud. Some may prefer to migrate what they have on-premise into the cloud. And some customers may just prefer to go through a full end-to-end digital transformation, redesigning their business models and transforming their cultures. Our goal is to be the best partner for that journey, whatever journey a customer may prefer. But I also want to stress the point that we don't do this alone. We do this along with our partners, and this may include our system integration partners that help with deployment and building and helping customers build stuff in the cloud. And it may also include our strategic technology partners, like Actian. Go to the next slide, please. With our technology partners like Actian, we aim to build best of breed experiences, in this case for data warehousing, for example, and offer that to our customers to solve the use cases that they have. And now with that, I will hand it over to Emma to talk more about Actian, Avalanche, and GCP.
Great. Thanks so much, Manvinder. That was really interesting. So, as I mentioned earlier, Emma McGrattan, I'm not sure I mentioned, I'm based in New York, and I am going to talk to you about Actian Avalanche. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, Actian Avalanche is a hybrid cloud data warehouse. So, it's a fully managed cloud data warehouse service, and we've really focused on performance and in particular delivering exceptional performance at a low price point. So that price performance we think is a draw to the cloud, and the innovation that both Google and Actian exhibit I think are another reason to move to the cloud and kind of accelerate a digital transformation. But delivering high performance at low cost is something that we've built for, and that cost is something that we look to contain. So for instance, one thing we've seen in pretty much every deployment of the Avalanche Cloud Data Warehouse is that people want to enable all of the business decision makers inside their organization with access to all of the data that can help them make the best decision possible, right? So you'll go into a company and they'll have given Looker access to hundreds of people, right? So being able to support high concurrency, hugely important. And I think as companies become more data driven, right, that use of those technologies is going to grow. Which means that architecting for high concurrency becomes even more fundamental, and it's something that it's hard to build in after the fact. It was a design point for us. The hybrid deployment, as Manvinder pointed out, people are looking at cloud journeys from many different perspectives. There's the public cloud, which obviously is a big focus for us. There are private clouds, there's hybrid, there's multi-cloud, and we've built Actian Avalanche to be able to support all of those different deployment offerings or ways to market. So for instance, with Google Cloud, we're working on both software as a service that will be delivered on the Google Cloud platform, but also a VPC. And if you're not familiar with the term VPC, essentially what we'll do is we can push the Avalanche Cloud Data Warehouse service into your Google tenancy. Right, so it's running on your infrastructure. We'll still provide the management plane, so we'll manage this, and you'll see how cool that is in a few minutes. But the data would reside inside your infrastructure, and that is something that you'd engage with Google for. We also, continue to have some people that start their cloud journey with an on-premise deployment, or they have certain data that might be subject to regulatory compliance requirements, and that forces them to keep that data on premise, or at least their chief data officer would prefer that data remain on premises. So working with Google and Kubernetes and their Anthos deployment, we actually have the ability to take the same solution that's deployed in public cloud and through VPC and deploy that into your on-premises data center. So an amazing amount of flexibility afforded to us with the work that we're doing jointly with Google. And as I mentioned already, the TCO is hugely important, right? So we have focused on that, and we've got some evidence to bear that out coming up in a couple of slides. So a fully managed MPP relational columnar database built for high performance at low cost, delivered wherever you need to deliver it, right? Whether that's on-prem, cloud, VPC, combination of those, that hybrid deployment or multi-cloud deployment, all of that is available. And where we've really focused and where we excel is in two areas. One is BI, very traditional BI, and the other is the operational analytics use cases, where you want to feed the transactions that are happening within your business into your warehouse and see that reflected immediately. So that kind of live access to data is very important to many of our customers. So we love Google Cloud. So we actually already have solutions available on AWS and Azure. So Google kind of rounds out the three main public cloud offerings that we're delivering. And one of the things that we've experienced with Google Cloud is that the way the network infrastructure has been implemented has really led us to deliver even better performance than we've seen on the other clouds. We're delighted with the performance that we can deliver on other clouds, but what we've done with Google is quite exceptional, and we look forward to running some more benchmarks there. And so I mentioned earlier that we've built for performance, and we have evidence that backs that up. But Google Cloud really helps us to excel our lead in terms of performance, and to extend that even further. Cost saving, hugely important, and Google Cloud is a very cost-effective platform. Ease of use is important to Google. I mean, there's nothing simpler than Google tools, and I love the simplicity of things like the search bar. And providing that ease of use, ease of getting started is something that we're pushing towards, and I will be providing a demonstration that will show you just how quickly you can get started and productive with our technology. The GKE, which is the Google Kubernetes engine, gives us the ability to not just deploy inside the Google public cloud into your VPC, but also via Anthos to have an on-premises deployment. And again, it's identical technology stack with the same management plane available for all of these different deployment methodologies. And then better insights, right? So opening up what we call the democratization of analytics, right? Giving everybody who needs access to the data the level of access they require so they can make the best decision for the business was important to us. So it's diagnostics when we talk about IoT use cases, it's predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, all of that is provided for with the Actian Avalanche platform. So when we say you're fast, people are always, they don't know fast. I'm sorry. If you say you're fast, people will look for a comparison point, right? So when we say, we've taken a benchmark, it's the TPCH, which is an industry standard decision support benchmark. It's not something that we wrote, right? This is something that the Transaction Processing Performance Council put together. It's supposed to represent a mix of medium and complex decision support queries. And we've executed that benchmark at a 30 terabyte scale. With 5 concurrent users. We employed a third party called GigaOM to execute the benchmark because we wanted this to be fair. And they completed the query set that makes up the benchmark with Avalanche in 2054 seconds. Now, if I gave you that number, you've no comparison point for that, right? So what I've used here is Snowflake. The reason I used it is not because we like to beat them up, but because a lot of people have familiarity with Snowflake. And to run that same query set on an equivalent environment takes 17,000 seconds in Snowflake, right? So 8 times faster, more than 8 times faster than Snowflake to execute the query set. Now, if we look at the next graph on here, what you'll see is that the price to execute the 22 queries that make up this benchmark for the 5 users cost $145.31 with Avalanche, right? Again, without a comparison point, it's hard to tell is that a bargain or not. And for Snowflake, the same set of queries running on equivalent infrastructure took $931 worth of credits to execute that workload. So what you'll see here is that not only are we significantly faster, but we also are much more cost effective. right? So there's a price and a performance benefit to the Actian Avalanche technology. And we have commissioned this report through GigaOM that compares us with all of the most popular cloud data warehousing solutions. I'd invite you to visit our website where you can get a copy of that report. It goes into the details as to how the environments were set up, how the queries were executed, and then on a query by query breakdown, it will show you the performance of each of those queries for the different technologies. So we believe it's using a third party to validate both the performance and the price performance is something that should be quite compelling. So getting on to the Google Cloud technology ecosystem, we are working right now to fill in all of the pieces in the circles here that are in blue. So let me explain what's going on here. At the center of my universe is this Actian Avalanche hybrid cloud data warehouse, and we've deployed that using Kubernetes inside Google Cloud. We also leverage Dataproc for doing things like Spark connections. So if you want to load the warehouse with data very quickly, Spark is definitely the best way to do that. One of the differentiators that the Actian Avalanche platform provides is a capability called Avalanche Connect. And this is Actian's data integration capabilities that are a natural extension of the warehouse, right? So once you set up a warehouse, the first thing you want to do is to bring some data in there. So rather than having to go to third-party technology providers to find technology that will enable you to bring data into the environment, Actian Avalanche has this Avalanche Connect capability that I'm going to demonstrate in a minute or two. That Connect capability gives you the ability to reach out to, let's say, data lakes. Maybe you've got Parquet files sitting on S3 that you want to bring into the warehouse. That Actian Connect gives you, or the Avalanche Connect gives you the ability to do that. And what we're doing as part of this Google integration effort is to add in support for Google Cloud Storage there. So our data lake set of technologies is expanded to include Google Cloud Storage. On the streaming side of things, we've got Kafka support today, and we add in support for Google's data flow and PubSub capabilities. So, what we're finding is that as people are deploying on Google, they want to take advantage of all of the various Google data-related services, and providing support for Avalanche in there is hugely important. So follows through here with Data Fusion for ETL, with Looker, which we'll demo for the business analyst, and then on the data ecosystem, we find that the data engineers like tools like Data Prep and Kubeflow for data engineering. Jobs.
That's a great point, Emma. One of the things we often hear from our customers is they're looking for a choice of platform where they can get multiple services and not have to move data across different destinations, because it's hard to do. And having Avalanche integrated with various GCP analytics services makes it sort of the destination where they can store and analyze and then do various tasks with their data.
Great validation. Thanks, Manvinder. We're certainly hearing it from our customers and our prospects. So we have at the moment an early access program that we're running. It started at the beginning of this month, and it'll run through March of next year. And with this early access program, what we're providing is a white glove service that gives you access to Actian Avalanche for free for the first 6 months of your deployment. So that's something that we would encourage you to reach out to learn more about. And we are limiting it to the first 10 customers, and we are filling up those slots quickly, but there are still a few available. So if you're interested, please do visit the Actian website, and you'll see under our partner link, Google Cloud, we'll provide you with access to the application to join the early access program. So I find that the platform is much easier to understand when you see it than for me to try to describe all of the capabilities that we provide. So if you bear with me here, I'm going to switch over to a demonstration. So when you come into Actian Avalanche first, you'll see two main areas of focus. The first is our warehouses, and the second is our integrations. So if we go for the warehouses, you'll see I've created a warehouse here on Azure. We've got this running on Azure Data Lake Gen 2. If I want to scale my warehouse, I can simply move this slider, save that new warehouse size, and I'm ready to go with the ability to scale just the compute resources through our implementation of a separation of storage and compute. Obviously, the Azure one's interesting, but not nearly as interesting as what we're doing with Google. So if I come into my Avalanche on Google Cloud Warehouse, this is a small disposable environment that I created for the purposes of running quick demonstrations. So it's just got 1 terabyte of storage allocated for it. With all Avalanche warehouses, we are very focused on security and securing your data. So we have the concept of an IP allow list, and only the specified list of IP addresses or CIDR blocks are allowed with access to the environment. We also are cost conscious. So from the perspective of providing value for money, we want to make sure that when you're not using the service, that it would automatically shut down. So by default here, I've set up my environment with a 1 hour period of inactivity, after which that service will stop and save you some money. When I come in here, one of the first things I want to do is to start writing some queries, right? So we have built into Actian Avalanche a query editor, and we thought that it would make sense to include some sample data so that you have something to play with when you get your new toy. So what we chose was some on-time the on-time record set, which is many people are familiar with in the database world. It's a database of flight arrival and departure information, and most people focus on the delays and the source of delays, whether that's weather delays, equipment delays, and so on. So we've pre-populated the warehouse with some interesting data, and we've given you some queries here. So I like to play with the top 50 flights with the biggest average delays. So when I come in here and run this query, what you'll see is, see how fast that was? In 0.63 of a second, we had analyzed 7.2 million flight information records to understand where all of these delays were coming in. These tables are not particularly interesting to read, so we built in some basic visualization here. So I can say I want this to be a bar graph. I'm going to have my my airport code on one dimension, total arrival delay on the other. Now when I run it and see this bar graph, by mousing over it, I can see what was the cause of the delays. So some fairly rudimentary querying capabilities with keyword highlighting and command completion and so on as part of it. The other interesting tab within Avalanche is the integrations tab. So if we start off here, we've got a desktop data loader. This gives me the ability to identify which of my warehouses I want to load the data into. I give it my username and password. Hopefully this isn't going to show you my password. Then I give it the name of the table that I want to load the data into. And then I just browse to a file. I will then drag that file over. Oh, come on. Yeah, this knows it's a demo. There we go. I can drag that file into the environment, and now it's going to be ready to load that data into my Avalanche warehouse. It'll do some really clever things like detect the field separator, detect the record separator, identify what it believes the quote character is. You've got the ability to override any of those, and then I can just upload the data into the warehouse, which is quite cool. And I also have built into the platform JSON data loader. We've seen a ton of interest in working with JSON data. And so we've built in here a rather simple to use JSON data loader. So I love SpaceX. And before we got started today, I was playing around in here. So if I go to the SpaceX data site, I can take this URL here, which will get me the launch information for all of the SpaceX launches, right? So when I go into my data loader now, I'm going to say, okay, first thing I want to do is to set up a source. I'm going to come down here to my web API. I'm going to give this source a name, which will be my SpaceX. Come down here, give it the URL, give the data set a name. So this would be SpaceX launch. And now I just add that. Whoops. Okay, so now I've got my data source set up. Now I go into create tables. I'm going to create a new table. As I come in here, oops, for some reason, it didn't like what I did there. It's probably because it's a live demo, right? So I'm going to create a new table, and it Yeah, I'm not sure what happened right there, but essentially what it's able to do is to go through the data set, give you the ability to look inside that data set, identify which are the columns that you want to bring into your table, and then it will load that JSON data as though it were a set of relational tables, and then you can treat it as relational tables. When we come out to our destinations here, we've got the ability to load that data into Avalanche and Google Cloud. We could download it and put it into a CSV file. Oh, this part is working. Put it into a CSV file and sample the data. But really simple to use, and I've no idea what went wrong today, but I'm not going to get deterred by that. Last piece of the demo then is the work that we've done with Looker. We do find that Google customers love Looker. And I think it's because it's fast and it's super convenient and super easy to use. So what we've done here is we've built out a Looker dashboard that shows a much more interesting representation of that sample data that's part of the Avalanche warehouse. So now when I come into Looker, you'll see we've got 7.2 million flight trips that we're analyzing in the data set. And because it's Looker, it's really easy to just click in and get more information about what's going on. So we can see the top 10 busiest airports. We've got flights by state, flight count by airline, performance issues, delays, and so on. So really simple to use, great filtering capability, the ability to come in here and see more about the data, and a very simple and fast interface. If you think about it here, Looker's running in the cloud against our Google warehouse running in the cloud, and it's returning these results in well under sub-second timing. The last part of the integrations platform is that Actian provides a bunch of templates that allows you to do standard data load capability. Functions like if you wanted to take your Salesforce account history data and load that into Avalanche, or if you had a Parquet file sitting on S3, or you wanted to use Kafka, we've got these templates pre-configured, and you can just plug in your values, and you can schedule these jobs to run at any point in time, and really simple again to use and just run these configurations. So that is kind of a flyby tour of the platform. We're really proud of the work that we've done. We believe it's simple to use. The performance is clearly differentiated from the competition, and as I said earlier, the price performance is something that we're really focused on, right? Delivering that value for money and making sure that it meets customers' needs in terms of delivering performance at a good TCO. So that was it for the demonstration. So I believe at this point we're going to switch over to more of a conversation between myself and Manvinder, and we are going to. I believe I have the first question here, which is, how have you seen customers' needs evolve over the past few years?
Yeah, no,
particularly with analytics, because that's where I'm really focused. Yeah.
Well, I think just to summarize this, Emma, I think if you looked at cloud 10 years ago, when things were just getting started, or even 5 years ago, a lot of it was about using IaaS, right? I have my ERP on premise and maybe a data mart associated with it. How do I move that to the cloud? And how do I migrate that workload? What I think the evolution that has happened is these explosion of new use cases that companies are now trying to do with analytics in the cloud. Like, I'm in a manufacturing company. How do I do predictive maintenance in the cloud? If I'm a gaming company, I have this user session data of when my users left the game. How do I use that to do micro segmented audience targeting using that data? So it's just new use cases that are more sort of around innovation rather than migration, I think. Well, actually, let me ask you, how do you see this going forward? If you had a crystal ball looked at 5-10 years down the road, what do you think the future would be specifically for cloud data warehousing?
Hey, so if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be sitting at home right now, locked in because of a quarantine. But no, I do find that with what has happened with COVID, what we're seeing is an acceleration of the move to the cloud. And so whereas previously we saw a lot of interest in Actian's cloud offerings from companies that were using hardware appliances for analytics, so the likes of Teradata and Netezza and Exadata, and they were reaching capacity or end of life of those appliances, and they were, looking for an alternative. Now we're seeing a rush of people that want to abandon the more traditional data center for deployment of their technologies, and they're looking to move to the cloud. Not all data is ready to move to the cloud today. Some companies will have concerns around security, and certainly those industries that are very strictly regulated that want to keep their data on premises. And I'm sorry, their core data on premises, and they may have things like marketing campaigns that they're happy to run in the cloud. And so being able to support a hybrid deployment of data, I think, becomes increasingly important as we move forward. And because data sets that can move to the cloud, or applications that are going to be naturally born in the cloud, it makes sense to analyze that data in the cloud. The cost of doing it is very efficient. It's also the convenience, right? You can spin up additional capacity as you need it, and then spin it down again when you don't need it anymore. And so one of the things that we love about working with Google Cloud is this whole containerization that we've done for GKE deployment, and the fact that we can use Anthos then to push that into an on-premises data center for those customers that want to run both on-premises and cloud is fantastic. And then as we deploy, we love Google, and it gives us superior performance. But if the customer for some reason has certain applications that are running in Azure or that are running in AWS, we also have the ability to push through to those environments as well, because of the way this has been architected. So I see the future as very much hybrid and divergent. I think the ability to use the same technology across all of those different deployment platforms is very important. And then the ability to have a unifying view into that data set, right? So that regardless of where the data lives, when you go into your Looker dashboard, for instance, you should be able to access that data as though it's a single database, even though the where it lives might be distributed. And things like the high-speed network that's provided as part of Google Cloud facilitates that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I had a question for you then. What makes cloud fundamentally transformative from your perspective?
There's a lot I could share on that topic, but I like to talk about two things, specifically when it comes to analytics and data warehousing. The first one you kind of touched upon, which is now customers don't want to be boxed into traditional appliances, but they're looking for the elasticity and scale that cloud provides, almost the infinite scale that you get from a global computer. But the second thing I would probably want to highlight, which often gets overlooked, is this almost instant access to best of breed services, hundreds of best of breed services in the cloud. Whether it's from Google, first party services, or from our partners like Actian. If I have like millions of images, I want to label them, I could write 10 lines of code and use the Vision API. I could use Actian or a different product from our ecosystem. That instant access just speeds up innovation, which I think is part of the power of cloud.
Great.
So you talked about your experience with cloud, with Google, specifically around networking. If you could help elaborate on what makes that, how that makes Actian more powerful.
Yeah, sure. So there are a number of aspects to what's great about working with Google. The partnership that we've had and the support from your engineering has been second to none. So I love that. But with respect to the technology, when you're solving data challenges, the biggest fly in the ointment is going to be moving data between the nodes that are computing the answer to that particular query. And what we have found with, while we minimize, we make every effort to minimize the amount of data that needs to move to solve a query, sometimes it's unavoidable. And having a fast backplane means that the network component or the network latency is not visible at all in the query result times that we see back. So it's almost as though all of the nodes that are participating in solving a query are sitting on the same backplane inside the same server. It's remarkably fast, and that's something that's been fantastic. And then I think it's borne out again by the integration that we've done with Looker, right? So I have no idea where Looker's running, right? But it may as well be sitting locally here on my desktop. the times that is spent rendering the dashboards, filling in. I showed the graph of the US, right? That's part of the dashboard I had there. It populates really quickly. I've used other tools that are desktop tools that might be running against a local data set. I can see that the queries are finishing sub-second, and it can take 20 to 30 seconds to render the dashboard. But again, that really high-speed Google network has meant that we're able to get the answers to customers really quickly. And we have customers that are solving some quite significant challenges. So one example would be stock trading, right? Where you want to make sure that as you're making a decision, am I going to buy or sell at this given price? You have to do that analysis super fast. So one of our customers has a requirement where that needs to be done within 20 milliseconds. And we believe that your technology gives us the ability to deliver that type of performance on cloud. So something that I don't think people think of cloud as a high performance environment, but what we're seeing with Google Cloud certainly bears out the fact that what you've developed here will give us at least as fast as an on-premise data center, but in some cases even faster.
Yeah, I talked about our global network, but also within our data centers we have a petabit scale network that reduces latency between machines that hopefully our joint customers can benefit from.
Great.
Hi, if I could interject, Manvinder and Emma, we have a few minutes left, and we do have some live questions that have come in, and I'd like to pose them to you. And to our audience, the Q&A button is live and well, and if you want to try to sneak one or two in, if we don't get to your question, we will follow up with you and get that answered offline. But why don't we start with the first one? And a couple people have asked this, is how is Avalanche different than Google BigQuery? Emma, do you want to take that, or both of you?
I can start it, and then Manvinder can add. So from my perspective, right, we have built Actian Avalanche to address BI and operational analytics challenges up to the multi-hundred terabyte range. Google BigQuery does a great job at petabytes and above, and I'm not even sure some of the terms that are used for the data volumes that BigQuery can analyze. But we're certainly dealing with smaller data sets, more like the traditional BI and operational analytics data sets, up to probably half a petabyte is where we would start petering out in terms of the performance that we can deliver. We also we solve complex queries from a business analyst perspective, but BigQuery is solving a lot of AI and ML queries that, you mentioned the autonomous car, right, and some of the work that's been done there. They're solving some problems that I think are far weightier problems than you would look to solve with Actian Avalanche. We've built for hundreds of concurrent users. I see BigQuery serving the needs of tens of thousands of users. So complementary. We address a certain scale of data and query complexity, and then you step up to BigQuery to take it beyond that. Did you have something to add, Manvinder?
Yeah, I was just going to say, often we hear from customers that they're looking at the choice of the platform where they want to store and analyze the data. Often they have use cases which they haven't yet even thought about, which will come down the road. So having access to multiple technologies that are complementary in some way, helps them with that journey.
Great.
Right.
Here's another one. We'll try to get a couple in quickly. One is, can you talk about security for customers' data? Specifically, the questioner says, my company wants the customer data should stay within the US data center. So I guess it's about data sovereignty, et cetera. Manvinder, do you want to talk about how Google Cloud handles that?
Yeah, so I'll be brief here, but we try to give as much controls as possible to our customers. So, if you're spinning up a Google Cloud storage bucket, you can pick the location of that bucket and where you want to store that data. And we have multiple locations in the US. There are some nuances to work around. Like if you're picking a multi-regional storage bucket, then that data by default is replicated across regions. So the Google Cloud team and our partners can guide you through that, but we definitely have controls in place that will help you do that.
Okay. Next question.
And then for us, Jeff,
Oh, go ahead.
when you create the warehouse, you choose the data center where you want that warehouse located. So that gives you the ability to keep all of data within a certain geography. And just to add, a couple of capabilities that we have within Avalanche includes column level encryption. So if you wanted to secure something like social security numbers or credit card numbers, you got the ability to do that, as well as dynamic data masking. So again, if you're dealing with a credit card number and you wanted to mask all but the last 4 digits of that card number, that's all provided for. So very secure platform that builds on top of the security services provided natively by Google Cloud.
Okay, thanks. Let's see if we can get 2 more in quickly. Question is, how do we handle, maybe the collective we, data migration? So if people have legacy systems on site, in the cloud, that's always a thorny topic. How do we support that, or how can we facilitate that?
Mavinder, you want to take that first, and then I can add.
Well, so I can take that. So we have multiple ways of moving data into cloud, and often Google Cloud Storage would be the destination because then it's flexible and it's integrated with Avalanche and other tools. We have our transfer appliance. We have a transfer service that does that over the network. If you look at our website, there's multiple ways to ingest that data into the cloud, including our ecosystem of ETL partners and things like that.
And Emma, anything you want to add?
No, that was good. That was great.
Okay. One, I guess, is kind of a follow-up before, and I guess the part of the answer is going to be it depends. But the question is Avalanche less costly than BigQuery?
It'd be rude to answer that one, but I think what I can say is if you take a look at our GigaOM benchmark report, you'll see some numbers for the TPC-H query set. Being fair to BigQuery, I think it is designed to solve a different use case. What is an ideal data set and query set for us is not typically the BigQuery data set, but do take a look at the numbers in that GigaOM report.
Okay. And maybe the last question, it's about working within what you got, data ingestion. So for both of you, how does Google Cloud and Avalanche support and work with ingesting data from existing applications, whether they're on-premise or whether they're in the cloud? Is this a kind of disruptive greenfield thing, or can you complement and extend a company's existing data investments?
Okay, I'll take this one. So if we go back to the chart that I hope you're seeing right now, that talks about Avalanche Connect. So Avalanche Connect gives us the ability to reach out to a whole variety of data sources. I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but from an application perspective, we cover the top SaaS applications like Salesforce and NetSuite and ServiceNow. There are a whole host of others. Whether you're in the marketing, a marketing role, or depending upon the role or the industry you're in, there are many other applications that we provide support for that are SaaS based. And then on-premise, which I think it's going away more quickly than we anticipated, we provide connectivity through to applications like SAP and Oracle apps and Microsoft Dynamics and so on. But I think what's to me is most interesting about what's going on in the Google Cloud relationship from Actian's perspective is the richness of the services that Google provides for data services. So adding in support for all of the components here in blue has been a priority for us, and each one is exciting and serves a whole bunch of different use cases. So we have our native Avalanche Connect data integration capabilities that get extended quite significantly by the native Google Cloud data services. And the last thing I forgot to mention, Jeff, here is that we also have a CDC capability. So as changes are happening inside your business systems, we've got the ability to feed them in real time into Avalanche running on Google Cloud. So you get a real-time view of the business.
And Manvinder, anything you'd like to add?
I think this chart actually covers it pretty well. We also work with ETL tools. We have Data Fusion, which is the Google product, but if you're using something like Informatica, you can use that. If you already have an investment there, you can use that to migrate data directly into Avalanche as well as into other analytic services in the cloud.
Well, thank you very much. Emma, if you could go to the last closing slide, that would be helpful. I think we've exhausted our time. We haven't exhausted our questions. So what I'd like to suggest, and you can see right there, www.actian.com/Avalanche, you can get a lot more information on what we talked about, the Google Cloud partnership. Very importantly, that GigOhm report that we touched on, that is available for the price of free. You can't do better than that. So if you go to our site pretty easily, you'll be able to find the landing page to be able to request that and get instant access to that report, which just got released this week. And I think you'll find that interesting no matter what cloud technology you're taking a look at. There is a click to chat, and if you have other questions, obviously both Google and Avalanche and Actian would be very happy to answer that. I'd like to thank our speakers today. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our audience for your time and your interest. We're just jazzed to be working with Google. I think there's some amazing technologies here, and we're just getting started. So check it out. If you're interested in the early access program, please jump on in. The water's great, and you'll see a lot more coming from us shortly. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Stay safe.